in this election. Remember when the first Earth Day happened, there was no Environmental Protection Agency. Guess what president signed that into law? Richard Nixon. A little hard to believe today that a Republican created the Environmental Protection Agency to protect your rights to clean air and to clean water. In 1995, President Bill Clinton gave my father the highest civilian honor that can be afforded a civilian. He gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom for being the founder of Earth Day. The whole family was there. It was quite exciting. Thank you. The lesson of Earth Day is this, that each of us have the power to make a difference. Individual action matters. You have that power to determine our future when you show up in the ballot box in November and vote for Hillary. I want to close with one of my father's favorite quotes, or one of my favorite quotes of my father's, and I suspect Senator Sanders might have appreciated it well. He said, "The economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the environment, not the other way around." By that, he meant our clean air, our clean water, our productive forests, and our productive farms, they determine the robustness of our economy. And when we elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, they understand this. They will fight for our future and the future of generations to come. But this is all dependent on you. So please organize your friends on campus, get out to vote, and I'm so grateful for you giving me your time today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Aisha Mo.
Right, you can hear me? Wonderful. Hello, my name is Aisha Mo, and I am a fellow with the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. Thank you all so much for being here. It is such an honor to be speaking to you all about the candidates and the causes that I care so deeply about. I am proud to say that I am from right here in Dane County. I graduated from Madison Country Day School last spring, and I'm attending the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I love Madison. I love how many opportunities there are in Madison, a place where politics is really a part of the mainstream conversation. But to be honest, I wasn't very political before this election cycle. When I first heard Donald Trump's questionable comments and characterizations, I laughed him off. I did not take him seriously. I thought, there is no way that this man could be president. And I know that's how many of us here felt too. That changed one night when, last spring at dinner, my 9-year-old brother asked, "If Donald Trump becomes president, will we have to move because we're Muslim?" That moment changed me. Seeing my 9-year-old brother genuinely terrified for his family, I realized that I could not stand idle. I had to take action. That same month, I went to my first event with the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, a convention called Islam, Muslims, and the West, where I heard Russ Feingold and Mark Pocan and other Democrats talk about their commitment to building bonds with the Muslim American community. I heard Hillary Clinton condemn Donald Trump's anti-Muslim rhetoric and reiterate her unwavering dedication to stand with us. I knew that I trusted the Democratic Party to fight for me, for my siblings, for my family. And I knew that they would give people the respect, tolerance, and kindness they deserved. But the Democratic Party cannot do it alone. They needed my help to make sure that we elect Hillary Clinton, our next president. That we elect Russ Feingold, our next senator. I know that Hillary and Russ will go to work every single day to ensure that no child has to fear prejudice in their own country, and that these children can focus on just being children. My brother is counting on us. Every child who has ever been terrified by this hateful rhetoric is counting on us. When my brother's generation looks back, I want them to see that we stood stronger together on the right side of history. That together we worked to elect a woman who has worked her entire life fighting for families and children. Our words and our actions mean something to these children. Let's show them that we take this election seriously, that we do not allow divisive language to define us, and we do not let negativity control the conversation. There is so much at stake in this election, and I ask you today, please join me in these last 34 days. Knock doors, walk packets, make phone calls, and register voters. That's what you can do. Together, we will elect Hillary Clinton. We will elect Russ Feingold. And we will turn Wisconsin blue. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Russ Feingold.
Thanks, everybody. What a great packed crowd. What an honor to be up here following Tia Nelson. A wonderful person in her own right, but you know, I grew up with my senator being Gaylord Nelson, the father of Earth Day. And I had the honor of holding that seat for a while. And I'd like to bring back that emphasis on green and the environment and the climate starting in January to that United States Senate seat. We all know how many days it is. How many yet? 34. That's right. And what a thrilling thing when that federal court here said, wait a minute, Scott Walker and Republicans in the state legislature, You can't do that to the sacred right to vote. We're going to have early voting starting as early as September 26th, and that's exactly what happened here in Madison and Milwaukee and in so many places around the state. That is how you stand up to bullies who are trying to discourage people from voting, making older people think that, oh, maybe they shouldn't be voting anymore. I resent that, reject it, and the best way we can handle, yes, I do resent, and the best way we can reject it is to vote in numbers that they will never try this stunt again. And one of the reasons I decided to run for the Senate with your encouragement really began with a lot of the things that have happened here in this state. We already mentioned one of them, the attack on collective bargaining, the attack on our private unions and their rights, the attack on the environment, the eliminating the civil service system, the repealing of campaign finance laws. And they really jumped the shark when they cut $250 million out of the University of Wisconsin system. That was even too much for a number of Badgers who happened to be Republicans. They're all Badgers. So that was reason enough, because they tried to divide our state, just like some of the speakers talked about. This divide and conquer technique has to be repudiated. We have to come together as a state again. That begins on November 8th, where we have a conclusive Wisconsin again. But what I didn't anticipate when I started the campaign is what would be going on at the national level. I mean, I knew there was going to be a presidential election. I could have been up here talking about Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, and I probably would have indicated some concerns. But I had no idea that they would be so reckless as to nominate somebody completely unqualified to be president who wants to divide America. We have to reject that. We have to repudiate it. We have to win on November 8th. And it's not only you want this guy picking Supreme Court justices, we need Hillary Clinton picking those justices. I say to all the millennials and I-generation people here, thank you for your activism. You're the ones that's going to be more affected by this than anybody. You know, if they get control and keep the Senate, what they'll do is if there are Supreme Court appointments, there's already one, there'll be others. They're going to appoint 38, 39-year-old Clarence Thomases. And they're going to be sitting there on that bench, frustrating the great desire for justice of your generation when you're 60 or 70 years old. And maybe you don't want to think about being 60 or 70. It's not that bad. I'm having a good time. But you should not allow the great dream of human rights, of an inclusive society, that your generation represents more than anybody else, by allowing these right-wingers to control our democracy for many decades. It is November 8th when you stop them and you turn it around. And I did visit all the 72 counties last year, listening to people. And my opponent says, well, what's the big deal? He said that somebody said to him, pigeons even do that. No, they don't. Pigeons don't go around and sit down and talk to people and listen to their concerns, as far as I know. It's a real thing. Representing people means you listen to them first. You don't show up and go, here's the deal, I'm going to tell you what the story is. The people know the story. The people know the facts. The people know how policies affect them. The people know what they need to have a good life. And you listen to the people. And if you listen to the people in this state more than anything else, you'll hear that middle income and working families are having a hard time paying the bills. And it's a little puzzling, because those at the top, that the guy I'm going to introduce talks about, and I like to talk about, those at the top and Wall Street, they're doing just fine. They're all back in business at the highest levels ever. Unemployment is lower than it has been in the past. That's all good that those things are happening. But where is the deal? Where is the social contract that if you work hard, you can pay your bills and have a little bit extra to enjoy life and your leisure with your family? Where is that gone? The only way that that issue will be addressed is by electing Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine. That is the only way. It will only go in the other direction if we don't do that. If you believe it is time for comprehensive immigration reform in this country, it will only happen with Hillary Clinton. If you believe it is time to renew bipartisan efforts to get serious about climate change, that will only happen with Hillary Clinton. If you believe we can do more to make health care even more available and more affordable to all people in this country, that will only happen with Hillary Clinton. And if you want to make sure that middle income and working families get a higher minimum wage, paid family leave, lower prescription drug costs, protecting Social Security, that will only happen with Hillary Clinton. And if you believe, as I do passionately, that one of the worst things going on in this whole state and country is the cost of higher education and student debt, if you believe that, well, I don't think the other way is going to work. I don't think Trump University is going to help. I don't think Ron Johnson's idea that instead of having professors, you should have tapes put in a machine in order to learn. I don't think that's going to work. You know, the guy I'm going to introduce and Hillary Clinton got together and came up with a real plan to make college not just affordable, but get out of college with all this debt, not having all this debt. That is what they have done. The only way that plan that Bernie and Hillary put together is going to happen is if Hillary Clinton becomes president. It's the only way. It's the only way. And finally, if you feel as I do that there was a really bad Supreme Court decision called Citizens United in 2010 that opened our democracy to corporate domination that had never occurred for 100 years, if you believe that that decision should be overturned, which it should be, and can be, and will be, the only way that can happen is if you elect Hillary Clinton. Now, there was another candidate for president on the Democratic side, and he did a hell of a job. Bernie Sanders did a hell of a job. You know, he called me a few weeks ago, Senator Sanders, of course we were colleagues, and he said that he wanted to help me in my race for the Senate. And I said, thanks. I said, Bernie, you've done a tremendous job. How have you done it? You said, I'm younger than you are. There were times when it sure seemed like it. What a contribution to democracy. What a contribution to the progressive movement. You know, Bernie and I didn't always agree on everything, almost always, but one time we had a little fight about the dairy industry, you know, Midwest versus New England, and he and Pat Leahy put a provision in the bill that kind of changed the way the reimbursement worked. That was my only filibuster. My staff got me cheese recipes and cookbooks and history of cheese, and I went out there and read that stuff until it was all over. But we were together. We were together when it was time to challenge that USA Patriot Act. We were together to vote against intruding on the private lives of Americans. We were together when it was time to oppose the Iraq War, which was a mistake. We were together holding out as long as we could to make the Affordable Act as strong as it could possibly be. We were together And we'll be working together again in the United States Senate. I am so proud to introduce my good friend, one of the truly historic progressives now in the history of this country, Bernie Sanders. Thank you. I was just thinking this morning that about 10 years ago, the senator from Wisconsin came to Burlington, Vermont to help elect me to the United States Senate. And I am more than delighted to be back here in Wisconsin, one of the great and progressive states in this country, to make sure that your fantastic progressive heritage is maintained by re-electing Russ Feingold to the United States Senate. And while I'm here, I want to say a thank you to a very dear friend of mine, one of the founders of the Fighting Bob Fest, Ed Garvey. And thank my very good friend John Nichols and Mary Batari for all of their work. And wish Sarah Lloyd the best in her election for the U.S. Congress. There is not a whole lot that I can add to what Russ has just said, but let me just say this. A lot of the media portrays politics as a personality contest, as a dancing with the stars event, as a Super Bowl or a World Series, as some kind of entertainment. But you and I understand that politics is not entertainment. That what this campaign is about, in all honesty, is not Hillary Clinton. It's not Donald Trump. It is you and the working class and the middle class of this country. And what we as serious people, and what the American people and the people of Vermont and the people of Wisconsin have got to do, is just take a very hard look. Get beyond the personality. Get beyond the negativity. Just take a hard look at which candidate is better for the middle class and working families of this country. And when we do that, we will find overwhelmingly that Hillary Clinton is that candidate. And that's all that I'm asking the American people to do. Look at the issues. Go beyond what media does. Take a hard look and say, what are the issues that impact my family, my state, my country, and in fact, the whole world? Go through the list. Now, Russ and I have worked together for years, and I cannot wait, believe me, to see him back at my side in the U.S. Senate. And when we talk about issues, what Russ knows, what you know, and what many Americans now understand, the great crisis that we have in this country is the movement toward oligarchy. I know it's not talked about a whole lot on TV, but what we are seeing from an economic perspective, from a political perspective, are fewer and fewer billionaire families controlling our economy and controlling our politics. Too many heroes and heroines from Wisconsin, Vermont, and all over this country
have put their lives on the line to defend our way of life, our democracy, to see the Koch brothers and a handful of other billionaires buy the United States government. We will not allow that to happen. As we speak, at this very moment, the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, and other billionaires are pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into Senate races and congressional races. Now, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I kind of believe that democracy is one person, one vote, not billionaires electing their candidates. Now, I just talked to Hillary Clinton. I was with her in New Hampshire last week. And what she said for me to convey to you is that within the first 100 days of her presidency, she will bring forth a constitutional amendment to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Russ and I will be going all over this country to make sure that that constitutional amendment passes. And let me tell you this is not just a progressive issue. There are many conservatives, there are many moderates who understand that we cannot allow a handful of billionaires to control the politics of this country. It is absurd. It is beyond words. The Koch brothers alone are now recognized. The Koch brothers, two guys worth tens of billions of dollars, are now recognized as having more political power than the entire Republican Party. All right. We will not accept that. We're going to go back to grassroots democracy, one person, one vote. And by the way, we're also going to take on those Republican governors who want to suppress the vote and make it harder for people to vote. You know, maybe I'm just an old-fashioned guy, but I would like to think that every serious person in this country, no matter what your views are, that they would like to see us have the highest voter turnout in the world, not one of the lowest voter turnouts. That we want to make it easier for people to vote and participate in the political process, not harder. So we have to take on oligarchy in all of its ugly forms, and certainly one of the manifestations of oligarchy is that in the United States today, we have the most grotesque level of income and wealth inequality of almost any major country on earth. It is worse today than any time since 1928. Today in America, just listen to this, the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% owns as much wealth as the bottom 90%. At a time when middle-class families in Wisconsin, in Vermont, all over this country are struggling, people are fighting to figure out how they're going to put gas in the car to get to work, how they're going to pay their electric bills, how they're going to pay for child care. While all of this is going on, in the last 16 years, since the year 2000, we have seen a tenfold increase in the number of billionaires in America. Tenfold increase. In the year 2000, we had 51 billionaires. Back in those days, being a big billionaire was a big deal. But today, you got 540 billionaires. So what you are seeing is a society in which the middle class continues to shrink, where millions of people work longer hours for low wages, where in my state it is not uncommon for people to be working 2 or 3 or 4 jobs to cobble together an income and some health care, We have 43 million people living in poverty, some in dire poverty, where we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And while all of that is going on, we are seeing a proliferation of billionaires and more income and wealth inequality. Well, Russ Feingold and I say enough is enough. And what we are here to give a message to the billionaire class is you are not going to continue to get it all. We need an economy and a government that works for the middle class and working families, not just the 1%. Now, in the midst of all of this income and wealth disparity, Donald Trump has a brilliant idea. Everything that Donald does is brilliant. By definition, this is the genius. And his brilliant idea is to give many hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires. Because he knows what all of economics has told us on the contrary, that money is going to trickle down to working families. Oh, you just give those billionaires tax breaks, give large corporation tax breaks, and they're going to come back home and create good-paying jobs. No economist, serious economist, believes that. Here's what he wants to do. He wants to repeal the estate tax. The estate tax only applies to the top 0.2%. 99.8% of American families don't pay a nickel in the estate tax. If he does that, listen to this, if he does that, they get away with it. He's not alone. Republicans want to do this. The Walton family alone, you know, our good friends who own Walmart, people who pay their workers starvation wages, the Walton family alone will get a $53 billion tax break. The Koch brothers will get a $34 billion tax break. Their family will. And by the way, just in passing, the Trump family will get a $4 billion tax break. Hillary Clinton, you're right, enough is enough. Hillary Clinton, Russ Feingold, and I have a somewhat different view. We believe that when a billionaire like Trump, who owns mansions all over the world, who lives in the lap of luxury, when somebody like Trump, and he's not alone, other billionaires and millionaires don't pay a nickel in federal income tax, we do not think that that is an act of genius. We think that that is a disgrace, and we're going to change that. So if you are a working person out there, you ask yourself whether you think it makes any sense to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to billionaires. Hillary Clinton, Russ, and I are going to move in a very different direction. Right now, as you all know, we have a federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. You can do the arithmetic as well as I do. Add it up. And it's not just $7.25, $8, $9. Tell me if there's a family in America that can make it on $9 or $10 an hour. And the answer is no. All right? That is why I believe, Russ believes, and Hillary Clinton believes we have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. Billionaires should not be the only people doing well in our economy. If you work 40 hours a week in the United States of America, you should not be living in poverty. We're going to raise the minimum wage. That's what Hillary believes. That is not what Donald Trump believes. And here's another area of great difference between the two candidates. Hillary Clinton understands that in the year 2016, women should not continue to be making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. This is not a radical idea. Equal pay for equal work is what this country must be about. Pay equity for women. Donald Trump has another brilliant idea. All of you know, disgracefully, we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. And as Russ indicated, he and I tried to make, and we did make, the Affordable Care Act as strong as we should. And we have added some 18 to 20 million more people into the ranks of the insured. That is a significant step forward. We should be proud of it. And Donald Trump, though, and another one of his brilliant ideas, he wants to throw these 20 million people off of health insurance. And again, this is not just Trump's idea. This is what the Republican Party stands for. I'm the ranking member of the Budget Committee. And in that capacity, I questioned the chairman and members of the Budget Committee who proposed this, who passed this. And I said, tell me something. How many people are going to die when you throw 20 million people off of health insurance? How many people are going to end up far sicker and suffer much more than they had to? These guys had no answer at all. 20 million people off of health insurance. Our job is to make certain that every American has health care, not to throw 20 million people off of health insurance. And Hillary Clinton and I worked together on a significant proposal. We're going to have public options available in every state in this country to provide some competition to the private insurance industry. We are going to double funding for community health centers, which provide excellent quality primary health care, dental care, mental health counseling, and low-cost prescription drugs. We're going to double the number of people who will be able to access those community health centers. And let me tell you something else. I'm on the committee called the Health, Education, Labor Committee. And Hillary Clinton and I are going to be telling the pharmaceutical industry that they will not continue to rip off the American people and charge us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. You know, I have a hard time understanding. I think about this, I'm a little strange and I think about these things. Other people have pleasanter thoughts. And I wonder in my heart, which group of people are more greedy? Is it Wall Street or is it the pharmaceutical industry? And a great debate can take place. But what I will tell you is that and Hillary Clinton understands this, and we're going to work together to resolve this, we should not have to go to Canada to get affordable prescription drugs. You want to hear crazy? This is how crazy things are. Today, 1 out of 5 Americans who go to a doctor cannot afford to fill the prescription their doctor writes. Think about it for a second. Think about how crazy that is. People are sick, they go to the doctor. The doctor says, okay, here's a treatment for you. They cannot afford to fill it. In Wisconsin and in Vermont, you got elderly people cutting their pills in half because they cannot afford the medicine they need. Now, not only is that causing suffering for individuals, think what else it does. It increases healthcare costs because people will end up getting sicker and end up going to the hospital in order to get treatment they need. That's crazy stuff. So we are going to take on the pharmaceutical industry, and we're going to lower prescription drug costs in this country. As Russ indicated, there is another area that Secretary Clinton and I worked on, which is of profound importance, not only to millions of people, but to the future of this country, to those who will come long after we're gone. What we understand, what you understand, is that in a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And you know what? You know what? We once had the best educated workforce in the world. That is no longer the case. I have to tell you that. That is no longer the case. We used to have the highest percentage of people who graduated college of any country on earth. Today, we are falling behind many other countries. What Secretary Clinton knows, what Russ Feingold and I understand, and what you know, is the future of our country depends upon what happens to our young people. It is beyond insanity. It is beyond insanity that today hundreds of thousands of bright and qualified young people cannot get a college education for one reason: their families cannot afford it. It is beyond understanding, incomprehensible, that millions of Americans, because they did the right thing and got the education they needed, they are being punished with outrageous levels of student debt. Take a deep breath and just look at that situation. We need well-educated people. The world is changing. The economy is changing. Education is changing. Why are we punishing people for doing the right thing and getting a good education? We should encourage people to go out and get the best education they can. We should encourage them, not punish them. And that is why Secretary Clinton and I reached an agreement on a proposal which says that public colleges and universities will be tuition-free for every family in America earning less than $125,000 a year. That's 83% of our population. I want our young people to be leaving school with excitement, going out, getting the jobs they want, not just the jobs they need in order to pay off their student debt. I want to see young people be able to go out and start the businesses that their hearts are directing them to, not have to struggle decade after decade with horrible levels of student debt. So our proposal does two things: makes public colleges and universities tuition-free for the middle class, and also addresses the issue of student debt for those people who are dealing with that right now. And among many other provisions, what we are saying is it is absurd that you can go out and buy a car today with 1 or 2% interest rates, refinance your home 3 or 4%, and yet millions of people are stuck with interest rates on their student debt of 6, 8, 10%. People should be able to refinance those student debts. And that is part of Secretary Clinton's proposal. Secretary Clinton also understands that there is something profoundly wrong in our country when we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. We have 2.2 million Americans in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American. We are spending $80 billion a year at the federal, state, and local level locking up our fellow Americans. There is a better way. And what Secretary Clinton and I and Russ and many other people understand is it makes infinitely more sense to invest in jobs and education for our young people rather than jails and incarceration. And we understand that we need police department reform all over this country. We are tired of looking at those videos of unarmed African Americans being shot. I am a former mayor, and I worked with my local police department. I've had opportunity to work with police officers and law enforcement people all over this country. Vast majority are hardworking and honest people. But you know and I know that if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. And Hillary Clinton understands, as we all do, that we have 11 million undocumented people in this country, that we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. Now, there are a lot of reasons why we should support Secretary Clinton and oppose Donald Trump, but there is one, I think, more important than any other. And that is that if we look at the history of our country, where so many wonderful and extraordinary things have happened, we also know that from the inception of our country, from the very beginning, people had to struggle against racism and all kinds of discrimination. We remember and will not forget what happened to the Native American people, which is why we need today a new relationship with the Native American community. We will not forget the abomination of slavery and racism and discrimination. We will not forget that 100 years ago today, women in America didn't even have the right to vote, let alone get the education or the jobs that they wanted. We will not forget the struggles of the gay community for dignity and respect and the right to love the people they want to love. And we recall how many people in all of those struggles to create a less discriminatory society, a society in which, to paraphrase Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we judge people on their character, not the color of their skin or the country they came from. We judge people based on their character. Donald Trump wants to take us back. We will not allow bigotry to resurface in the United States of America. We have come too far. We have struggled too hard. Too many people have died in these struggles, have gone to jail to say that America is moving in the direction of a non-discriminatory society, to go back to a candidate who has made bigotry the cornerstone of his campaign. No, Mr. Trump, we will not accept insults to Latinos and Mexicans. We will not accept insults to Muslims. We will not sit back and allow women to be called slobs or whatever stupid words he comes up with. We have come too far. You know, my father came to this country from Poland at the age of 17. He had a nickel in his pocket, and he never made much money. But he loved this country so much because it gave him the opportunity to raise his kids in a way that we never could have been raised from where he came from. What you know and what I know, and this is a profound truth, this is not rhetoric, that one of the great qualities of our country, one of our greatnesses, is our diversity, a diversity we should be proud of. In this room, there are people who have come from probably, whose ancestors came from probably every country on this planet. And we have come together to work together. And we are not going to let Donald Trump divide us up. And if you still have any doubts about who the best candidate is, I want you to take a look at another issue. And I'm very glad that Tia Nelson, the daughter of Gaylord Nelson, was here speaking to us. I'm a member of the Senate Environmental Committee. I have talked to scientists from all over the world. And here is the truth. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. It is already causing devastating harm to our country and around the world. Donald Trump believes that climate change is a hoax created by the Chinese. Why the Chinese, I'm not quite sure, but I would have thought the Mexicans or the Muslims, but be that as it may, it was the Chinese. All right. We cannot run a government. We cannot develop public policy if we do not respect science. Can't do that. Hillary Clinton understands. She understands not only that climate change is real, but that we need aggressive action in order to make our country more energy efficient, in order to move aggressively toward sustainable energy. And this is an issue to me which gets beyond politics. It is an issue of morality. It is an issue of what kind of planet we leave to our children and our grandchildren. Let me conclude by saying what I think all of you already know. Politics is more than a presidential election, and politics continues the day after the election. Our immediate job in the next 5 weeks is to galvanize as many people as we can to make sure that Hillary Clinton is elected and Donald Trump is defeated. But our efforts cannot end on Election Day. Now, I hope and you hope that Hillary is elected. But if you think he could just sit back and go to sleep for the next 4 years, you are mistaken. All of you know that the history of change in America, whether it is the workers' rights movement and the development of trade union, whether it is the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the gay movement, the environmental movement, all of those efforts succeeded only when it is taking place from the bottom on up, not from the top on down. So we have got to elect Russ, we have got to elect Hillary, but we have to do more than that. We have to create a progressive movement of millions of people who are going to stand up to the Koch brothers and the 1%. And tell them that our economy, our political system belong to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. That is what this campaign is about. And if anyone you know says, well, I'm not going to vote, I'm not enthusiastic, and so forth and so on, you tell them that the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson, they are enthusiastic. They are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to elect candidates who will serve the interests of the billionaire class. So let us go forward in the next 5 weeks. Let us elect Russ Feingold. Let us elect Hillary Clinton. Let us start the process of transforming the United States of America. Thank you all very much.